My name's Dave. Mostly redwoods up here. Are you local or are you from
Toronto.
Okay. Have you seen redwoods yet?
Today, it was on yesterday, yeah.
Coastal redwood.
Coastal redwoods, yeah. We went through a small patch of them, and we wouldn't have known it except some guy was there and he told us the whole story.
They weren't giant redwoods. I mean, they weren't real tall.
They were, well, we consider them quite tall. They were as tall as that tree, yeah.
Okay, well, they were bigger than that. But these are Douglas firs, by the way.
These are Douglas firs.
They're redwoods here. We'll talk about why the petrified trees are redwood, but the live ones today are not. And also, I'll identify the predominant live trees in this forest today as we go around. Okay? Let's go through the foot of the trail here. You've seen redwoods like that, right?
Yeah.
Have you seen redwoods?
Yes.
Okay, good. I like it that people have seen redwoods because they're considered some of the best preserved trees in the world. And those who have seen redwoods can appreciate all more how well preserved they are.
We've seen them other places. Yeah, we have. On our other house. We were going through the forest and it was over the bridge. And we were there.
There's a stump of one right here. Those who have never seen petrified wood. There's a good introduction right here. Yeah. So we got trees along the trail, tree trunks that are fenced off. We got numerous stumps along the way too. That are like, you know, you can touch and you can see what I mean if you look at the top of it, how well preserved. Look at the growth rings on there. Yeah. And when we see the major trees about halfway around, we're going to see bark, which is rare in petrified trees, and knots, and they just, as I said in the beginning, these are considered some of the best preserved, and they're mostly redwoods. So I'm going to identify the predominant trees as we walk around. It's about a half dozen of them. And I'll start with this one right here. I'll pull it off the tree up here. Everybody recognize this leaf?
It looks like a baby.
That's what it is. Okay, you win the prize. You take a smell, you can smell. It's a bay there. It's a type of a bay. Now, there's different bays in different areas. Some bays, Mediterranean bays, which is see a lot in source, they're more bushy looking. But it's called a California laurel. It's a type of bay tree. Okay. And you can put that leaf in your spaghetti sauce as easy as in
How tall do they get?
Oh, they get out to about 60 feet. They get pretty
wow,
big, yeah. This is the California version of the base.
Make a lot of spaghetti.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a bay leaf.
Laurel. Take them off the trees here.
Did you smell this? Take it. Yeah, you want it? You can smell it all the way.
No, thank you.
Anybody want the baby?
Kids, they're going to cook.
They didn't want it. I asked them. It's a private park and a state historical landmark. Let me tell you something, Bob. See all that viney looking stuff over there with the 3 leaves on it? It's poison oak. And off in the shade, poison oak everywhere around here.
Poison oak hand.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. If you're in a nice sunny open meadow, you're probably safe because they like to grow in the shade. And it's like a vine, it crawls up trees, see that going up there? So if you go off the trail, just so you're in risk,
You know
you're in
what?
poison
That's a
oak.
really important thing for us to know.
Rest your
We look for shade to pee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So careful in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you hear what he said, Dylan?
That one with the 3 leaves like that? Poison oak.
You know
not go near them.
One other excavation with a lot of water in it, but all the rest are dry. So that's a heavy rain doing. Remember I said they're mostly petrified redwood? Well, this first exhibit or excavation here is the exception to the rule. These are the only trees found so far that are deemed to be not redwood or believed to be some sort of extinct pine that grew with the redwood forest millions of years ago when this happened. Now I said found so far because you can see how these things were discovered. See, the end of the trunk is just above ground level there. Well, all these trees were buried well over 3 million years ago.
Oh.
And millions of years of erosion and convergence. Convergence is the uplifting of the earth, how hills and mountains are formed. Combination of those two things is what eventually uncovered the tips of the trunks of the trees. And that's how they were discovered in the 1870s and subsequently excavated out later. So millions of years of erosion let us know that they were down there. We're just at that point in time in history where some have reached the surface. So as we go along, you will see that pattern as we continue around, that just the ends of them are above ground level and the rest have been dug out or excavated. Some were more exposed than others. That's a pattern we'll see as we continue around.
So the upper end is the end?
That's the top,
end?
yeah, and the base, the bottom's down here.
Okay.
When we continue around, okay, I'll get to the next part. Another pattern we'll see as we continue around is the direction the trees are laying. See, these two are laying towards the southwest because the volcanic eruption that caused this millions of years ago was approximately 7 miles to the northeast. Okay? So when the volcano erupted, it blew everything away from the blast of the volcano. Those of us old enough to remember when Mount St. Helens went off in 1980, all the trees were blown away in one direction. Well, the same thing happened here 3.4 million years ago. That's an example of what's called uniformitarianism, which means what happened in the past geologically still goes on today under the same circumstances or conditions. Okay? So you notice all the trees will be laying in this one direction as we continue around. Okay? Any questions so far? All right. This one here is like a warm-up. They're going to get much bigger and impressive as we go around. Okay. Now, there's two trees I want to identify right over here. Where are you guys from? What area?
San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to know something. Now, they're not going to know some of these trees. Our most asked about tree by far is this one right here. It's kind of bushy looking. It's called the manzanita. It only grows in California and Oregon, so if you're not from those two states, you're not familiar with it. That's why we get people from all over the world. It's very hardwood, very bushy looking, but it's technically a tree because it comes out of one trunk and then branches out. Very hardwood, very pretty wood, mostly used for artistic sort of purposes, wood carvings and that sort of thing. And they stay with that thin red bark. It keeps that look. By the way, manzanita is Spanish for tiny apple. Manza apple, nita tiny, because they have these little berries on them that are coming out now that look like tiny apples. So that's how manzanita got its name.
Is it edible?
They're edible. They're a little bitter, you know, but they're not poisonous. Now, if you look behind you,
Pretty
this
trunk,
tree is
red.
often confused with young madrone trees over here. See, you can see they're smooth and colorful also, but it's more orangish in color. It has a larger, more rhododendron type of leaf to it. Now that tree, when they're young, people confuse with manzanita. So you can see they're different in the color and the leaf. And the madrone gets much larger. They get up to 80 feet tall. And when they get larger, they get an established bark on them. It's just the young growth that's smooth, all smooth and colorful like the manzanita. I'll point a mature madrone out to you later on. Now the range of the madrone is from Northern California up to British Columbia, okay? So you don't see that in Southern California. It's more of a Pacific Northwest tree. Manzanita, madrone, there are two most asked about by far. Okay.
I don't know if you remember California, this one. There was a new video.
Just a word about Spanish moss. See this grayish green something hanging from the trees. You know, it's very prevalent in the southeast United States, but you'll find in different areas also, including Northern California. And what I want to remind you is it's not really moss at all, even though it's called Spanish moss. What it is two different types of lichen that are living together symbiotically on the tree. They're not part of the tree, they just live on the tree. They live off the air. Just over here you have like this ribbon type at the base of it, and this is more like web type that hangs from it. So this is what Spanish moss is. Does it hurt the tree at all? No, it doesn't. It just lives on the tree. It doesn't help it anything. But there's a positive to seeing it in that since it lives off the air, it won't grow in polluted air. So if you see Spanish moss, you know your air is at least decent. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. Some trees it doesn't do a lot of good to, but doesn't actually kill them. It is moss here. This here called Spanish moss is really lichens. And it's the same in the southeast too, only the different types of lichens. Okay? Walked over some of this stuff already, you might have noticed it. A lot of people say it looks like cement, and it does. But what it is, it's volcanic ash. Volcanic ash, when it comes out of the volcano, is extremely fine. It's like finer than a talcum powder. So even after it's compacted for millions of years, it's still a pretty soft material, relatively soft, a lot softer than cement, though it looks like it. Now this is what you're going to see all around the excavated petrified trees, because this is what they were buried in 3.4 million years ago that had the minerals in it that were subsequently carried down into the trees that petrified them. Okay? So this was the source of the mineral deposits right here. This is what the source of it. So you see where he was standing, how it's all crumbly there? Yeah. Just to show you how soft the ash is.
The volcano, sorry, when you said it was south of here?
South, northeast, no.
Northeast of
They're
here.
laying southwest, northeast is where the
Northeast
volcano.
here is where
It's
the
where Mount St. Helena sits today, north of the upper end of the Napa Valley.
Oh,
So if you go down to the Napa Valley,
yeah, we're going there.
okay, as you go down the hill, look off to your left, that's Mount St. Helena. Now that's not technically a volcano. You can see that whole area around Mount St. Helena has a caldera look, and Mount St. Helena is a subsequent uplift, a convergence of where the volcano was.
How long ago was that? Sorry.
3.4 million.
Oh,
So things change over that period.
So that's when these petrified trees were here.
That's when they were buried
$4
and
million,
fossilized.
Dylan.
Now, two things I want to point out in the ash. You see the orange balls, the orange veins? That's iron that was carried over in the volcanic ash. Now, the iron was denser than that fine ash that carried it, and somewhat magnetic being iron, so it tend to come together in ball or vein forms known as concretions of iron. That's what this orange is. Now, some of the petrified trees, you're going to see some orange hue in some of them here and there. That's telling us that iron was one of the minerals that got into the tree that was part of the petrification process. It's not the predominant mineral, but some trees have the iron in it. That if you see the orange, that's what that's telling us. Now, if you see these black shiny rocks, anybody guess what that is?
Obsidian.
Obsidian, you got it. It's obsidian. Obsidian is volcanic glass. How that forms is, it's like a silica-rich magma that's thrown from the heat of the volcano to cooling in the atmosphere so rapidly, it doesn't have time to mineralize or crystallize properly, so it forms that amorphic rock known as obsidian. So that's how it is formed. And then large chunks of it, Native Americans would make their spearheads and arrowheads and knives out of, because it is natural. It's volcanic glass. And it's very, very sharp. You gotta be careful when handling it. And you can heat it and chip it. The practice called flacking or flaking. I've heard both terms. You can make obsidian so sharp you can perform surgery with it. That's how sharp it can be. So that's what the shiny little black rocks protruding are. Okay. Go into detail about how it all happened. By the way, this light purple flower there, that is called a wild ceanothus. You also see ceanothus in landscaping. It's usually a deeper purple. But this is wild ceanothus. It comes,
It's pretty.
blossoms fragrance. So it blossoms in early
Does it have
spring.
fragrance? Yeah.
There's a bunch of flies in it. Oh, is that right? How do you know
Oh yeah, hey Sharon, that has a real nice fragrance.
Whoa.
Beautiful
Nice
fragrance.
fragrance.
Flies
They don't last long. If you look over here, there's funny area there, poison oak. If you're off in the trees over there, it's everywhere. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the trees now, the live trees. All the tall conifers in this area are Douglas fir trees. They don't get as big as redwoods, but they get pretty tall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they get up to 200 feet further north. We have some towards the end of this trail that are about 100 feet. But they get over twice that size up in Oregon. So
We actually biked over going to Washington last summer.
we saw
We
some huge Douglas
trees.
trees. Now, and the predominant oak tree is this one here. It doesn't look like an oak tree to a lot of people from the east and
It
Midwest.
sure doesn't. Or from Toronto.
Yeah.
That's not an oak tree.
But it's a type of an oak. It's a true oak. It's in the Quercus genus, and it's a type of a live oak. Live oak means it's green year round, not that it's alive. See, this tree looks the same in January as it does in July. That's what live oak means. And the predominant one in this region is the coast live oak, and it's unique in it has this little holly type of leaf to it. Okay, you probably have them in San Jose like that. Close enough. So this is like our predominant. Now we do have a few white oaks and a black oak further along the trail. They're your more typical deciduous oaks, you know, they lose their leaves in the fall and winter. But predominantly it's the coast live oaks, what we're looking at when you look all
So does
around.
it make acorns?
Yeah, it's in the Quercus
Yeah.
genus.
Okay. So there's no poison oak there, so he's okay.
It's not that wet.
Are you chasing the butterfly?
One of the wildflower over here, that's called star lily. That's the name of that.
See, don't pull it. Hold on, but he says
Leave
it's
it
called
alone
star
now.
lily.
We only have them for a few weeks. Well, that's an early one. In a month they'll be gone.
You know, the only thing you're supposed to take.
It's a star lily. It's beautiful.
This tree right here. Now here's a mature and a grown tree here. Okay? Now, nobody would confuse that with a manzanita. You can see the young growth is orange there, yeah, and the end branches. But you can see,
You showed us way over there.
yeah, that's how big they get. Now here's the little one, see? Now people would confuse that with a manzanita. They would never confuse that with a manzanita.
So there's a cycle, top end cycle that's grown. Yeah, who makes it? Don't specialize?
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah. I
That's
wonder
a
why
madrone
they picked.
tree.
I wonder why they picked that name. 'Cause I had no idea that it was named after it.
Here's a pretty good sized man.
Here's a petrified wood from the volcano.
Now look at the one behind it, it's even bigger. See, that's about as big a manzanita as you're going to see. This one and the one behind it. Look at the one behind it through the other one. They don't get bigger than that. I mean, that's, you know, these are about the biggest you're going to see. Now this statue here, that's supposed to be Charlie Evans. Later became known as Petrified Charlie. He claimed this property back in 1862. This is the silver mining area back then. That's why you hear the term Silverado this, Silverado that. And in 1870, he found some stumps on his property that looked like wood but felt like rock. And he didn't know what it was. So he kind of, there was a local scientist out here at the time, a guy named Marsh. He was from Yale. And he pretty much spotted it as petrified wood, but he sent samples back east to Yale. In 1871, he heard back it was deemed to be petrified redwood. So that was the discovery of the petrified redwood forest. Okay, that's when he started becoming known as Petrified Charlie. Yeah. Charlie started some digs going back then in the 1870s, and some work was done back then. And Charlie died in 1880. The property stayed in his family for a while. Then around the turn of the previous century, it changed hands a couple times. And the family that it's in today acquired it in 1914. It's been in this family ever since. And that's when when this family got it, a lot more excavations took place. Trail development more sophisticated. That building down below you were in was 1915. And you get the idea, that's when things started picking up some more. Yeah.
They were just interested in what, forest?
Back then, it was a petrified forest. They were interested in improving it and adding to it. That's what they did. Yeah, it was always been just what it was. Charlie, he just claimed the property in 1862, and petrified forest is what happened. You know. This family's had it for 100 years. 100 years this year.
What's the family name?
It was Ollie Bouquet, but then her niece. Was named Hawthorne, and she put it into a trust, the Hawthorne Trust. In the state of California, who had been making moves to make it a state park throughout the 1900s, never happened for various reasons. In 1978, declared it a state historical landmark. So it's a private park, was run through a trust, and now it's a state historical landmark.
And that protects it from...
Protects it. A historical landmark is pretty much a designation and a protection. Yeah. It really has nothing other to do with it other than those are the right thing out.